I just finished putting together this 3 foot by 8 foot and 1 foot tall wooden raised bed for my mom, and I filmed the whole process and I thought I would share it with you. So stick around and check out how this was made. I'm going to share a lot of food for thought and some variations on this theme that may be useful to you. About 2 years ago, my friend Liam and I set up a hay bale based raised bed garden system for my mom here. I'm going to link to that video here so you can see that whole process. And after 2 years, the hay bales, as you would have expected in a cold climate, they broke down and left just a legacy of this exquisitely rich compost. So if you ever have doubts whether or not hay will break down into actual compost, well, you can decide if you think that's true or not, but it's very rich. But they've broken down enough that they no longer were serving the purpose for my mom's needs, which is to have a raised bed, so it's easier for her to get to. And so what we thought we'd do is, here's one of the beds, and you can see this is where the other bed was. So we went through the process of basically taking that material out and putting it into this new raised bed box. And in some ways, this is a Hugelmound bed, in that we bulked out a lot of it with old logs and debris, unfinished compost, things like that in the bottom half, and then went up from there. Now in this case I'm using hemlock 1 inch by 6 inch boards, and these are cut to 8 feet by 3 feet, and they're 1 inch thick. It's not at all a necessity to use dimensional lumber. These were left over from another project I was doing, and I thought they would look nice to have a good, clean, uniform board. But there's no reason this couldn't be done with live edge or slab wood cuts from a more rot-resistant wood like locust or larch or white oak. You can go fancier, but part of the real value of this is there's no screws necessary at all. It can be scaled to any size you want, so it could be, for example, 8 feet on this side and 6 feet on that side, and you just hammer in the staves in a different way depending on what you need. Here I'm using locust staves that I sharpened with my chop saw. I talk about that in greater detail in another video. And once I basically laid out the boards in a rough way, I put some cardboard down just underneath them and outside a little to help keep the weeds down, which was then covered with wood chips later on. And starting with the western side, or just one of the reference sides, I pounded in the 2 stakes and stood up that board. And then we went through and did that for all the other 3 sides. And you can see on the north and south side, in this case, we also hammered in taller staves, partially to keep the wood held in, but also to be potential for trellis. So we can run wire through the middle here. My mom can grow peas and beans, tomatoes, cucumbers up through the middle, and then have easier access to the sides. So this could be much wider if you wanted. This could also be have curves to it. If you had more staves, you could have shorter sections that each make little turns, be any shape you want. 3 by 8 in this case was just kind of a good, simple standard, so that's what we went with. We're planning to put a second one, and maybe even a third in here with the same basic idea. And what I've done to prep for that is, as this bed was being put together, part of the soil that I was harvesting was by shaving down deeper in the walkway. That does a number of things. One, it gives me material very close by to fill this bed with. 2, it makes the relative height of the walkway lower to the bed, so it's easier to get access in there. And 3, it makes a recess along the whole length of the bed that when we get a very heavy rain, water will naturally pool in here in the wood chips and ashes that are sitting here as a cover material and be slowly wicked into the Hugelmound underneath this bed. The next bed will run parallel to it, and it'll be the same idea, this common trench filled flat with wood chips. So I've got more wood chips to put in here, but it basically makes swales out of the walkways between them. So the next bed will be about 2 feet or 3 feet from this first one, and then we'll see where that puts us. That probably will be all we do, is just 2 beds, but maybe there'll be a third. There's an upgrade coming down the line here in a bit where we'll remove this old bathtub that used to collect rainwater, and I'll set up a standard 300-gallon cistern here, which I talk about in other videos on how to set up. And that'll give us a lot of water for this and for other nursery things in this area, and also give us access on the inside of this. All in all, this project cost under $20. I would guess 10 to 15 for the wood, and that's just because I bought dimensional hemlock at 55 cents a board foot. But this could be free with offcuts or pallets or any other resource. Could be logs that you find in the woods, make a log cabin style. And what's nice is you can make, if your staves that hold in the sideboards are tall enough, you can just keep adding logs or boards or whatever as high up as you want to go. You may even consider building the soil during the first growing season, have the first year this bed be filled with potatoes, and as you fill it with more and more soil, you add more sideboards and build it up that way. But here it is, a very simple system, under $20 for a nice permanent raised bed, only about 15-20 feet from the house. That's the kitchen, so it should provide a nice easy place for my mom to come out and harvest greens and the like for the summer. Thanks for watching. Hope this is useful to you.